For the 6th season in a row, Walters is the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast, located across the street from the ballpark, just off South Capitol Street.
Here's Garcia with 2 down. The pitch. Garcia smacks one to left. Back on this one, Simpson to the warning track, to the wall. He leaps. He can't get it. It's gone. It's just over the fence. An opposite field home run for Luis Garcia Jr. And the Nationals lead it 2-0. 1-1 sent down the left field line toward the corner, way back toward that short wall, and it hits the foul pole screen for a 3-run homer. And the Rays lead it 3-2. Hernandez ensures he got to second. But yeah, that hit the foul pole screen, stayed fair right at the 3:15 mark.
On the way, swung on. DeLuca drives one deep down the left field line toward the corner. Going. Goodbye. That went into the tarps off territory down the left field line in the corner. And they're going crazy down there. Johnny DeLuca in his first game back off the injured list from a hamstring strain has a home run. And the Rays add a big run here at the bottom of the 8th inning. It's now Tampa Bay 5 and Washington 2.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com is off for this installment of the podcast, but I'm joined by the creator, owner, and executive producer of the pod, Tim Shovers. The Washington Nationals' connections to the Tampa Bay Rays, as many of you know, are many. General manager Ani Kalambi, manager Blake Butera, bench coach Michael Johns, third baseman / first baseman Curtis Mead. Each of those guys has been employed by the Rays. The Rays, of course, are arguably the most analytically inclined, forward-thinking, resourceful organization in MLB and maybe all of sports. And the Rays are having yet another surprisingly good season. I mean, at this point, I don't know that we should even use that word surprisingly. And the Nats on Friday night did lose at these Rays. Game 1 of a 3-game series, a 5-2 loss. This in a game in which the Nats blew a 2-0 third-inning lead. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 39-37. The Rays now are 42-30. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by Steve Solomon, who is running for Montgomery County Council at large. Visit votestevesolomon.com for more info. Steve's a good guy, cares a lot about Montgomery County, Maryland, worked with Tim and me for years. And you could check out my conversation with Steve on a recent installment of my podcast, the Al Galdi Podcast, episode 1345. Coming up later in the show, a special treat, a conversation that Tim recently had with Sean Gibson, the great-grandson of Josh Gibson, one of the greatest players in baseball history. Josh Gibson, a star catcher, first baseman, third baseman, and outfielder for the Homestead Grays, who were the Negro Leagues team of Washington, D.C. Have you ever had food poisoning? As far as I know, I have not. But Cade Cavalli has. Cade Cavalli was supposed to be the Nats starting pitcher on Friday night, but he was scratched from the start due to food poisoning. The expectation is that he will start Saturday's Game 2 of this series.
Yeah, Cavalli should be good to go tomorrow unless something drastically changes, but he's feeling better tonight. He's at the hotel resting and should be ready to go tomorrow.
But with Cavalli out due to the illness, the Nats went with an opener in relief pitcher P.J. Poulin. He tossed 2 scoreless innings, and then starting pitcher Miles Mikolas came into the game as the Nats bulk pitcher. He allowed 5 runs in 6 innings as Poulin and Mikolas admirably covered all 8 innings needed by Nats pitchers in this game. But yes, Mikolas did allow 5 runs, and the Nats offense did not do much beyond 2 solo homers. But Tim, I ask you, have you ever had food poisoning?
I indeed have, Al, and it came last year during the Nats season. So I had to edit Nats Chat while dealing with food poisoning. It was a real tough one. I believe they had a night game and then followed by a day game. So I think it was 2 in that stretch. And it came from one of my favorite spots. They got the best sesame chicken in town. And I went like 9 months without having it. I recently have come back. That's a whole other thing. But yes, Al, I feel Cade Cavalli's pain. But unlike him, I couldn't take the day off. I didn't have Miles Mikolas ready to edit the podcast.
Yeah, you did post, so good on you. Beware of the sesame chicken. That is the takeaway from the tale of Tim Shovers. Yeah, I mean, the news initially was that Cavalli was ill and that's why he wasn't starting. I actually think it's good news that it was food poisoning, because we have seen illness for a player can mean that the guy is out for a while. We have seen guys go on the injured list because of illness. That actually happened with Baltimore Orioles starting pitcher Trevor Rogers earlier this season. He went on the 15-day injured list due to illness. We remember catcher Keibert Ruiz when he was ill and how long he ended up being out for a ways back. So the fact that this is food poisoning and not like an illness per se, like, he has the flu, and that the expectation is that he'll start Saturday's game 2 is good news. But, props to Poulin and Mikolas for being good to go. I know that the final line for Mikolas wasn't pretty, 5 runs in 6 innings, but that, he was up for the task, that those two guys covered all 8 innings needed by Nats pitchers in this game. If you're looking for a bright spot, that to me is a big-time bright spot here. This could have ended up being, say, a bullpen game in which the bullpen gets wrecked in terms of player availability for the rest of this series. And the Nats don't have another off day coming up for a while here. They go straight from this series into a 4-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park. The next off day is 2 Thursdays from now. So I actually say good job here to Poulin and Mikolas for covering the 8 innings in this game.
Yeah, it's rare to give praise to a losing pitcher that gives up 5 runs, but Miles Mikolas stepped up and ate up the innings and kept the bullpen fresh for the weekend coming off the off day. The off day, as you said, was important because Mikolas himself was on full rest. That would not have happened if they did not have the off day. So he gave them a competitive-ish effort. If the bats had been more alive on Friday night, then they would have had a chance. It's just 2 solo homers, and that was it.
Yeah, it's funny. There are plenty of games in which 5 runs allowed by the pitching staff actually would have been good enough to win because the offense, of course, has been so good. That was not the case in this game. Yeah, the Nats' next scheduled off day, I mean, who knows with rain, right? But the Nats' next scheduled off day is Thursday, July 2nd. So Mikolas, 5 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 9 hits. 2 home runs, a double, and 6 singles, issued a walk, recorded just 2 strikeouts, did throw a lot of strikes, 85 pitches, 58 strikes, just 27 balls. He, in the bottom of the 3rd, allowed 3 runs as he gave up a 1-out opposite field 3-run homer by Jonathan Aranda off the left field foul pole for a 3-2 Rays lead. The homer had a projected distance of just 334 feet per Statcast. That's what you call a bad luck home run allowed by Miles Mikolas, but that was a homer. Mikolas in the bottom of the 4th allowed a run on a 1-out first pitch double by Richie Palacios off the outfield wall and right field, and then a 1-out RBI single by Taylor Walls to center field for a 4-2 Rays lead. Mikolas in the bottom of the 8th allowed a run as he gave up a leadoff homer by Johnny DeLuca to left field for a 5-2 Rays lead. It is funny because, we're throwing bouquets at Mikolas and he allowed 5 runs in 6 innings, but I actually still feel pretty good about where he's at off where he was. And maybe, my judgment is skewed because where he was so bad. But since the start of May, I think he's been way more good than bad. And the reputation that he has had being an innings eater, it's funny. He was not eating innings at all over March/April. He was struggling. He was not lasting for long in games. But we have seen him since he started being better, not just be better in terms of run prevention, but even in the outings in which he hasn't necessarily been great or even good, he's consuming innings, as he did in this game.
The team's performance in May and the performance of Littell and Mikolas, to me, they are directly correlated with one another. To have pitchers who are giving you competitive outings, who give you a chance if your offense shows up at all, which is not what you had in April. And then it just infects so many other areas. It could lead to losing streaks very quickly because the bullpen gets churned up. That did not happen with Mikolas stepping up more. So, as you said, there's only so much praise we can throw at the guy for taking the loss. But in that area, his improved performance, hand in hand with the team's improved performance, I say.
Your overall stats for Miles Mikolas now, 16 games, including 6 starts, ERA of 5.47, whip of 1.28.
Hello, Montgomery County, Maryland listeners of Nats Chat. This is for you. I'm Steve Solomon, candidate for Montgomery County Council at Large. You may remember me from my 20 years on local radio as Solly at the Team 980, where I worked with Nats Chat's own Al Galdi, Mark Zuckerman, and Tim Shovers. I myself am a podcaster now as well. I'm asking for your vote for Montgomery County Council at large. Over the last 10 years, I've gotten much more involved in local issues in Montgomery County. I'm an active member of my civic association, the County Civic Federation. I volunteer at nonprofits. I serve on the board of directors of the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame, the Sports Advisory Committee, and the Library Board. Montgomery County is a great place to live. We've got incredible parks, libraries, restaurants, businesses, and most of all, people. That's why I'm running, because I think we can do better, whether it's at economic development and bringing in more businesses, helping the small businesses that are already here by streamlining permitting and cutting the red tape on inspections, or growing our partnerships with our thousands of amazing nonprofits. Doing those things will give us more money to keep all the services and programs we love funded, like programs for our seniors, taking care of homeowners and renters, and funding our parks, libraries, and rec centers. Once again, this is Steve Solomon. I'm running for Montgomery County Council at large, and I'm asking for your vote. Early voting runs June 11th through June 18th. Election day is June 23rd. You can learn more about me or how to contact me at votestevesolomon.com.
Now Jacks to the belt. First base side of the rubber delivers. And a swing and a long drive right center field. This way back. This ball is going, and gone. Goodbye. 2 rows deep into the seats in deep right center field. Well to the left of the 382-foot marker. Bang! Zoom goes C.J. Abrams with home run number 15 and RBI number 55. It's the Nationals 1 and the Rays nothing.
The offense, for the most part, was not good in this game. Just 2 runs, just 6 hits, which were 2 home runs and 4 singles, no walks, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did homer twice off Rays starting pitcher Griffin Jacks, but he ultimately allowed 2 runs in 5 innings with 5 strikeouts versus no walks, improving his ERA to 3.67 over 21 games, including 10 starts in this regular season. Rough moment in the top of the 8th. So, top of the 8th, the Nats had Curtis Mead batting with runners at the corners, 1 out, down 4-2. But Jacob Young, who was on first base, got picked off and tagged out in an attempted steal of second base. And then Mead had a weak ground out for the 3rd out. That spot seemed so set up for the Nats to do some more late inning damage. The Nats have been so good this season in terms of scoring over the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. Mead, of course, has been so good this season. Mead, of course, used to play for Tampa Bay. Like, the script was right there with Mead batting, runners at the corners, 1 out, Nats down by 2 in the top of the 8th, but that was not meant to be. Some really good execution by the Rays defensively in that spot.
Yeah, missed opportunity for the Nats there. They had a chance, even though they were behind for the bulk of the game. You know, you look at the offense this evening, James Wood goes 0 for 4, and if you take away C.J. Abrams, they scored 1 run, if you follow what I'm saying. So when Wood doesn't show up and the supporting cast doesn't either, they got very little chance unless Abrams has a big night, and it was just a solo homer for him. So, you know, they are susceptible to these sorts of games. And with that 8th inning, Al, you know, Young, again, making it out on the base pass. We've talked about that.
Runners lead 1st and 3rd. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Curtis Mead. Garrett Clevenger comes set. Runner at first goes, and the throw to first. Young heading for second. The throw there, and he's out.
Like, if this team wants to turn the corner and really be a winning team and really be in playoff contention in month 4, in month 5 of the season, they cannot make outs on the bases in the 8th inning like that anymore. That stuff has to stop.
Yeah, the Rays are a team that excels in terms of execution. Now, I say that understanding that Young got on first base in that inning via an error by first baseman Jonathan Aranda, so the execution in that spot wasn't necessarily at a high level for Tampa Bay. But generally speaking, the Rays are a team that executes, and that was some prime defensive execution in that spot. You mentioned C.J. Abrams. He did have a home run. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Abrams in the Nats 1-run second, a leadoff homer to right center for a 1-0 Nats lead. The homer going a projected 412 feet per StatCast. C.J. Abrams with that homer became one of just 6 players in MLB, each with at least 15 home runs and at least 10 stolen bases. James Wood is another one of those players. The Nats, the only team in MLB with at least 2 players on that list. That's something. At least 15 homers, at least 10 stolen bases. Just 6 guys in all of MLB. The Nats have 2 of those guys in C.J. Abrams and James Wood. Abrams slash line now at .284 in terms of the batting average, .367 on base, .513 slugging. And speaking of slugging, Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 2 for 3 with a solo homer and a single. Garcia in the Nats 1-run third, a 2-out first pitch, opposite field solo homer to left field for a 2-0 Nats lead. The homer had a projected distance of 364 feet per Statcast. And that homer by Garcia gave the Nats 4 players, each with at least 10 home runs, tied for the most in the National League. The Nats, each with at least 10 homers here. James Wood, 20, C.J. Abrams, 15, Curtis Mead, 11, and Luis Garcia Jr. at 10. And by the way, 2 other guys, each guy has 8. Dalen Lyle has 8. Jacob Young has 8. But with Garcia, I've talked about this. I really think this is a big deal. I'm not sure this is getting the attention it deserves. The power from Luis Garcia Jr. He, for the month of May, had a slugging percentage of .513. He, for the month of June now, has a slugging percentage of .600. 5 home runs now for Luis Garcia Jr. in this month of June. His OPS for the overall regular season is at .758, including a .470 slugging percentage. You know, we've had many Luis Garcia Jr. conversations over the life of this podcast, 6 seasons now, and it has never been easy to get a true grasp on what he is as a major league player. Defensively, there are issues. There's no doubt about that, as we have seen him slide down the defensive spectrum, right, from shortstop to second base to now first base, and he hasn't been good defensively at any of those positions. But the guy can hit. The question has been, how good of a hitter is he? He lately has been a really good hitter. He's on a nice run right now.
I root for Luis Garcia Jr., and right now you look at the 10 homers. So 20 homers are in play. He's never hit 20 before. And his OPS, as you mentioned, 758. So it wouldn't take much for him to get into the 800s. If he ends the season with 20 homers and an OPS in the 800s, that's a legitimate starting first baseman in Major League Baseball. Now, defensively, as you said, he's at the bottom of the pack. Whatever it is for the top 30 guys who start, he's almost always going to be in the 20s somewhere in terms of defensive metrics. But I really like what I'm seeing here. You see how much it changes if the stars step up, like we saw with Wood and Abrams. They're, of course, well into double figures. And now Garcia is one of the other guys who has 10 homers. And all it takes is just a few guys who have 10 homers in June. And next thing you know, the Nats go from having one of the most impotent offenses in baseball for years to having the best offense in the National League. And Luis Garcia Jr. is a big part of that.
Yeah, he's been really good here over these last few weeks. You mentioned James Wood. He was the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Dylan Cruz came off the bench to pinch hit and serve as the Nats DH. He went 0 for 2. The Nats starting catcher in this game was Keibert Ruiz. He was the Nats starting catcher and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with a single, and also a sparkling defensive play.
A long hold. The runner goes at first. A pitch out and a throw to third, and they may have him, and they do. Oh, the Nationals with a terrific play. A set play. They throw a pitch out, and Ruiz just picked off Mullins going back to third.
The Rays in the bottom of the 6th inning had runners at the corners, and Keibert Ruiz on a back pick threw out Cedric Mullins. Mullins got tagged out, got picked off at third base as the Rays were showing bunt. The Nats sniffing out what looked like a squeeze play. And I bring that up to mention this. The Nats defense has gotten a lot better. The Nats defense over the first, say, month and a half of the season, not good. We talked about that quite a bit. We lately have not had many conversations about bad Nats defense. And defense in baseball is one of those things. It's kind of like offensive line play in football. If you're not talking about it, then that means that it's probably good and not bad. It's usually when it's bad that you notice it and you talk about it. And the defense for the Nats in recent weeks has been better. Not perfect. You can find some blemishes along the way. But overall, if you're talking like the course of this regular season, first 6 weeks, bad defense. I'd say last 6 weeks, much improved defense. And I thought that moment there from Keibert Ruiz was like a snapshot of the improved Nats defense.
And would you know it? They've won 9 of their past 11 series when they're playing better defense. See how that goes. Love seeing the back pick from Keibert Ruiz. He's improved offensively, of course, this year. It's just if he improves a little bit defensively, then you can start talking yourself into him, being a bigger part of this team down the road and being somewhat in line with the contract. I don't want to overplay one play from the evening, but you're bringing up one tidbit from the game involving Keibert Ruiz, and it's a nice play that he made. How many times did we say that in 2025?
Not many. How many times have we said that over the course of his career? Not many. That was a really nice play by him and a good job by the Nats in pulling off that play and recognizing what seemed to be coming by the Rays. I did want to note this about the Rays. It's always interesting to look at opposing teams for the Nats and, when those teams are good, how those teams do what they do. So the Rays are very good in a variety of aspects. Among them is starting pitching. The Rays, as we are recording this, are number 4 in MLB in starting pitching ERA at 3.39. But a big part of the Rays' quality starting pitching is a lack of walks. The Rays are the only team in MLB for which starting pitching has issued fewer than 100 walks in this regular season. Just 95 walks over 356 innings in terms of starting pitching for the Rays here. And, I noted earlier what the Nats did offensively in this game, 0 walks. This is something that the Rays are so good at, not issuing walks. There are many things that you want from a pitching staff, right? You want the pitching staff to generate strikeouts. You want the pitching staff to throw strikes. You want the pitching staff to not give up home runs. But how about that? This clearly is an emphasis with Tampa Bay not issuing walks, throwing strikes. Certainly other teams emphasize that too. I mean, this isn't discovering plutonium. Right? Like, if you don't issue walks, that's good. Like, yeah, we get that. But the Rays are really good at that. And man, did we see that in this game. The Nats offensively have been good at drawing walks, but in this game, shut out in the walks department.
Yeah, I'm going to read a tweet from Spencer Nussbaum. He tweeted at the end of the game, the Nats have drawn 1.1 walks per game in losses and 3.5 walks per game in wins this month. That isn't everything, but it definitely is something. I thought it was a sharp tweet there by Spencer pointing that out. One thing that the Nats have done so well this year offensively is they've feasted on back ends of the bullpen when they're in trouble. They'll put up the big innings, things of that nature, leading to a higher run differential. But with the Rays, they don't get in trouble because they don't give up those big innings, because they don't give up those walks, and it shows in a game like on Friday night.
Yeah, this is a good test in terms of this series for the Nats. Now, we have seen the Nats this season do well against good teams. We have seen the Nats this season play plenty of good teams. So there's no reason the Nats can't win this series, but they'll have to win each of the final 2 games of this series. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:10. And yeah, the expectation is that Cade Cavalli will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 is Sunday afternoon at 1:40. Andrew Alvarez is still listed as the Nats' probable starting pitcher for that game.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and 1 spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Swinging a bouncing ball right side toward the hole. Aranda to his right gets there. He'll throw to Baker covering, and he lifts his right leg and stamps it down on the first base bag for the out that ends the ball game. And the Rays have taken the first game of this 3-game interleague series.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by our pal Steve Solomon. He is running for Montgomery County Council at large. Visit votestevesolomon.com for more info. Steve's a great guy, cares a lot about Montgomery County, Maryland. Worked with Tim and me for years. And you can check out my chat with Steve on a recent installment of my podcast, the Al Galdi Podcast, episode 1345. So you had the chance to have a really cool conversation. You spoke with Sean Gibson, the great-grandson of Josh Gibson, one of the great players in the history of baseball. Josh Gibson played for the Homestead Grays, who were the Negro Leagues team of Washington, D.C. And Josh Gibson, and this is one of the many remarkable things about him, he was a catcher, first baseman, third baseman, and outfielder. You talk about defensive versatility. How about that? Catcher, first baseman, third baseman, and outfielder. His career regular season OPS plus is .213. 100 is league average. Above 100 is good. Below 100 is bad. His OPS plus, which is OPS adjusted for a player's league and home ballpark, .213. That is unbelievable. And the great what if with Josh Gibson, of course, is how good would he have been in MLB? If you think about, who are the candidates for greatest player in baseball history, Josh Gibson, to me, is on that short list. And to what extent would he be even more prominently mentioned among the great players in MLB history had he been able to play in MLB? But what was this like? You're talking with Sean Gibson.
It was a really cool opportunity, Al. First off, the background of it was a lot of fun because I went to the Negro League panel before the game on Tuesday night, and Sean was part of that panel and also was Andrew Rube Foster's great nephew. So a few ancestors from the Negro Leagues. And Bob Kendrick was in attendance that night. He threw out the first pitch. You've heard Bob on this podcast for many years. He's the president of the Negro Leagues Museum. But I said to Sean, I wanted to talk with him, and he told me we were sitting in the Terror Club. So, I camped out, Al, for a few innings in the Terror Club, waited to see Sean walk back there. He sat down. He said, "Oh, you're waiting for me?" I said, "Sure am." And, conducted the interview outside, just behind home plate. So it was one of the more fun interviews I've ever conducted. But to the actual content of it, I love how the Nats have leaned into promoting Negro League history this decade. They've been one of the forerunners of that across baseball. They've added to the Juneteenth holiday by making a Negro League evening, and it's really been a fun event for fans who go to the game.
There is no other MLB market like Washington, D.C. in terms of the multi-layered nature of the history of the market. When you think about not one but two incarnations of the Washington Senators, the Homestead Grays, now the Washington Nationals, who, of course, used to be the Montreal Expos. So when you talk about history, there are so many variations of history in terms of D.C. baseball and what D.C. baseball has been about and the teams that have been a part of D.C. baseball. And the Homestead Grays, of course, very much a part of that. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast, and we'll leave you now with Tim's conversation with Sean Gibson.
Pleased to be joined behind home plate alongside Josh Gibson's great-grandson, Sean Gibson here. Nats are facing the Royals on Negro Leagues Night. Earlier this evening, we had a panel. Sean co-hosted that for the second year in a row. Sean, just give me your reactions to an evening like this where someone like your ancestor is being honored and his contemporaries and what it all means today.
Man, first of all, it's a great time. I want to thank the Nationals for their partnership with the Josh Gibson Foundation. And as you mentioned, it's a great night. We're here celebrating the Negro Leagues. We're here celebrating the Washington Homestead Grays, which is a big part of the Negro Leagues. And, of course, Josh Gibson. I see everybody with the Grays jerseys on today, which is great. And also, man, it's just a great time to be a fan of the Negro Leagues. So much has happened. When the stats came out in 2024, a lot of teams are doing more of these nights, celebrating the Negro Leagues. So we're excited that Nats is still continuing on the tradition of celebrating the Negro Leagues.
You talked about how in 2024 the numbers became official. That started early part of this decade. Just as you, with having the last name Gibson, how is your life different today in 2026 as a result of all this than it was, let's say, in either 2019 or 2016?
Well, it definitely has changed. Not just for me, for all the families of Negro League baseball players, but particularly for the Gibson families. You know, Josh is number one in several MLB categories now. And so in OPS, batting average, single season batting average, career batting average, you know, for the Gibson family, it's been great. It's been great on the licensing side with NIL. You know, I mean, we got partnerships with Ebbets Fields. We got partnership with Lids. And so it has definitely elevated Josh on another level financially, but also just recognition-wise. I think now, when you look up the name Josh Gibson, you will see those names in his record books with Major League Baseball players. And the good thing is, you know, we all know Josh didn't play in the Negro Leagues, but now he's ranked in some of the best players that play the game of baseball.
Let's talk about that record, the lifetime average. He now holds the record over Ty Cobb. Do you know an on-the-record opinion that your great-grandfather had about the man Ty Cobb?
I do not. You know, you figure I'm 56 years old. I was born in 69. Josh died in 1947. I was trying to say 47. So I never had a chance to see him live. But my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., also played in the Negro Leagues, and that's where I got all my stories from. But, you know, I mean, when the records were broken, as you mentioned, Ty Cobb, there's a lot of Ty Cobb fans out there, a lot of Babe Ruth fans out there. So some people wasn't happy about it, right? And, of course, records are meant to be broken. And at that time, in 2024, when MLB made the announcement, it just so happened Josh passed Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb. So, you know, the Ty Cobb family is a great family, but I've never had a chance to meet any of them, but we have spoken on the phone.
Last question for you. Of all the former Negro Leaguers who aren't yet into the Hall of Fame, of course, Josh Gibson's in the Hall of Fame. Leon Day's in the Hall of Fame. We could go on and on with the guys that did make it in. Turkey Stearns, Judy Johnson. Who hasn't gotten a recognition from Cooperstown that you feel deserves it?
Well, two off the top of my head. One is definitely Gus Greenlee, who's the owner of the Pittsburgh Crawfords. And then a teammate, not a teammate, a guy named Rap Dixon. Those are two guys that I think that should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully they get in the Hall of Fame, but definitely those two. Gus Greenlee, the owner of the Crawfords, and Rap Dixon.
Out here, if you're doing nothing, you're doing everything right. Though on a cruise with Norwegian, even if you're doing nothing, you're still basking in the warm sun, enjoying the peaceful ocean waves. You're breathing. Don't forget about breathing. Definitely need to be breathing. So you get to do nothing, or everything, but you still need to be breathing. It's like really important.
Experience the difference with cruises to Alaska, the Caribbean, and Europe. Norwegian Cruise Line. It's different out here. Visit ncl.com, call your travel advisor, or 1-888-NCL-CRUISE. Norwegian Cruise Line ships registry the Bahamas and USA.